I mean, that shadow of doubt, like I feel like it'll swallow you whole. Like it'll eat your whole life if you let it. If you don't like put a boundary on your attention that says like I am only one human being. There is only so much I can do.
This my belief is that yes, we have parts, etc., that are bothersome, annoying, that drive us crazy, etc. But is violence really the way? Like, I mean, because is it really the way? Do we really want to do violence to ourselves by wanting to like cut that part out and throw it away?
That's why I love parts work. I feel like it makes it so much safer to explore yourself when that admission is like baked in from the get-go that like no part of what you find in there is all of what you are.
Something that we talk about a lot is to witness, um, to be with. Like that question, like that part, for example, is just to slow down and don't be in a rush and don't try and extract the answer that you want out of what you're sitting with, but to just allow it, tolerance again, to tolerate it. And I know my parts appreciate just being witnessed however they are.
It's so understandable, the gift of understanding. It's so understandable that, like, at a deep, subconscious, primal, physical level, like, we're wired for safety. That's why I say, like, the doubt and the intolerance, like, it comes with the vehicle. Like, that's part of being alive, is that that's in there. And it can have us like going in a roundabout and kind of stuck in one spot, or we can use it as fuel in the gas tank. That's possible to let it do its thing, let it lead us somewhere new. It's like
Yes. Mhm.
my nerd bells are just like chiming
Yeah.
so delicious. Like, this is so good. Yay. Okay, so we are going to begin with a grounding like we did last time. But before we dive into that, I just have to acknowledge two things really quickly. Number one is my initial impression of these gene keys, as far as like Laura and I had so much fun recording last week when we did the 3740 conversation. And loosely, we're like, yeah, as the sun moves, about every 6 days, it moves into the next gate. We could come back and have a conversation about that gate and, what's going on there. And that we also have permission to skip them. If it's just really not lined up with fun as the fuel behind it, then we just don't need to do it. And low key, I looked right at the Gene Key 63 and was like, yeah, we probably don't need to do that one because like it really doesn't apply to me. I haven't ever really dove into it. I don't really have any insights on it. So like probably that'll be one that'll be easy to skip and like, but that's okay because there's really cool ones coming up. And I just go into that because now me saying that, today is Thursday, March 5th, 2026, and this little mental story played out probably like Friday or Saturday, like this past Friday or Saturday, like 5, 6 days ago, probably. Like before we even got to the gate 63, I had already written it off as like not applicable to me. How wrong I was. And so I'll just leave that part right there. And the second thing is that, you know, Laura illuminated in the grounding last time. We got into like feel your energy and feel like the connection, like the touch point of like my energy touching your energy, and like see what that does to like when those two energies combine and like both are still whole, but both are also affected by like the touching of these energies. And as we were going through that in the grounding, like I was feeling, yes, Laura and I's energy that was going to play together. I was also feeling like the presence of all of these other energies that are going to play with this video, this transmission, by watching it in the future. They're going to observe it, and by observing it, they're going to like add their energy to it. And that in a way, outside of time, they were already doing that like in real time, like they're here now kind of thing. Like I feel very connected to the friends who are watching this, like in their own now, but here we are in our now, and like yet we all get to play together. It's like the abundance of this technology to create this little bubble of energy and for that bubble of energy to pop on the surface of someone's life in divine timing, like in their perfect now. And so just like setting that intention that like this inquiry these last few days has been so right on time for me personally. And I have no doubt that this conversation, the energy of it, will find someone else like in that moment of right on time for exactly what they've been thinking about. So yeah, I am in need of a grounding. Like floating away with my excitement for this conversation. Uh,
Yes. Me too. Me too. Because I'm feeling that all that head gate pressure center stuff too, with all the blah. So, okay, a grounding. Grounding in all of this excitement and all of this, like, I just feel like um little like electrical entities of like idea and concept and imagination and confusion. Anyway, okay. So, all right. So, settling in and slowing down. And as always, noticing how whatever you're sitting on is just holding you so effortlessly because gravity. And coming into the body by noticing your breath. Just notice how it is now. You might have an idea of how you would like it to be or how it should be. But see if you can let that go and just notice how it is right now. As you breathe in through your nose or mouth, just feeling the breath entering your body, filling your lungs and maybe your belly too. And then being released so naturally and with such ease back out into the room, the environment, wherever you're sitting. Maybe a couple more, just like that, just noticing, just observing, not forcing. And without removing your awareness from your body, just kind of feel into the energy of your mind or the thinking mind or the place of ideas. And noticing delicious ideas, delicious learning, and the quality of that. And also maybe there is concern or anxiety, because sometimes all the things that we think can be a lot. So just noticing the quality of that, or whatever is most present with you right now. So we're just acknowledging that. But back into the body. Maybe you feel good to be located in your heart center. Or maybe you feel good to be located in your root. wherever you decide to seat your awareness in this moment, I invite you to pull into your body the best of the delicious learning, or the best questions that confusion or doubt might give rise to, without attaching. Just to allow, and you can try and visualize. So see if you can visualize what exciting new ideas might look like. Maybe there's a symbol, maybe a bumblebee, or a lightning bug. It seems to be insects for me, or something else, of course. Whatever occurs to you, or whatever comes up for you is perfect. But yeah, so as you imagine what those things might be, these fun ideas, the quality of excitement, or the qualities of uncertainty or confusion or questions, allow them to ground into your body. You might want to pull them down into your feet, for example, or imagine roots growing from your root center, from your base chakra, reaching into the ground, and infusing all these concepts and ideas and thoughts with the heartbeat of the earth that is usually quite steady and reliable, present, slow, deep. So, in other words, I invite you to drink in to your cells, into your body, all of this activity of the mind, so that it can live in the body, connect with the heart, connect with the feet or the hands, or a sense of rootedness in your life. Some of the buzzing may feel like a lot, but we're allowed to let go of whatever feels like a lot or too much, so that we can really feel and embody and allow ourselves to be shaped or directed by fruitful questions, exciting ideas, gentle impulses, Notice if you feel a bit more quiet in your energy. Maybe notice if your primary sensation, like the place where you were feeling the most before, notice if that has changed location. As we allow our thoughts to enter our cells and nourish us in the ways that we want to grow, in the ways that we want to move, and in the ways that we would like to expand. Noticing breath again. Is your breath slower? Is it deeper? It might not be, and if that's the case, that's okay. But however your breath is, just notice the deliciousness of it. Feel how good it feels to take a breath, to fill as far as you need, and then allow the breath to leave, knowing that there's another breath after the exhale. And again, noticing how your chair holds you as you move through time, as you move through thoughts and sensations. Mm. Okay. So when you're ready, maybe with your next breath in or out, you can just allow your awareness to return to the room, noticing any sounds in the environment, or maybe just the loudest sound or the most noticeable sound is my voice. Just opening the ears of your awareness to what's going on around you again. And yeah, as we wrap up, just feeling how it feels to be you in this moment and how easily it is to take a minute, to take a pause, to change the quality of your energy so quickly. So easily. Okay. All right. So coming back into the room whenever you're ready, wiggling fingers and toes, fluttering eyelids open, stretching, yawning, whatever you need to do. I always need to stretch.
It's delicious when you're down in the present moment to feel the body move. Wow. You are so in your element when you're doing that. I freaking love it. The things that come out of your mouth, just things that I could have never conceived of. And yeah, your consciousness is such a gift and so easy. And I mean, it feels to me like it comes from a place of like finding that stream of well-being inside yourself, like reaching for it through your own physical sensations and just like narrating like what you're allowing yourself to have in that moment. And just such a powerful space that that opens up.
Thank you, Carly. I have
Hmm.
no idea what comes out of my mouth most of the time.
We're all
I'm
delighted together. It's great. Uh, so yes, that absolutely did change the quality of my energy. Um, I mean, I'm just even remembering like how I was feeling before, and it reminds me of what I was saying to you in the voice note where I was like double checking, like, you're gonna do a grounding, right? Like, I need a grounding because I'm floating away with my excitement. And I was like really feeling how like the gate 63 and 64, the main ones we're going to unpack today, they're both in the head center, and that's a pressure center. And even though there is like this deliciousness to the excitement that I'm feeling, I'm also feeling how that excited energy has this pressure inside of it. And so even though feeling excited does feel good in a way, there's part of me that can feel that this is like it's like creating a static that's like there's something that could be better here, you know? Um, so yeah, I feel like that did me a great service. Sink into sink into my roots and locate my awareness down into the deliciousness of what it is to like stir things up with this instrument of the mind. Like
Yeah,
that's fun. That can be fun. And it's a pressure center. So it can also invoke a lot of stress and anxiety and tension and constriction in the body that then becomes almost like like self-perpetuating cycle, like a reinforcing cycle. That tension and stress like just is like perceiving even more things as dangerous and threats, and now we're questioning even more things, and like the endless cycle of that what if and that mental loop that like there is no answer that's ever going to make you feel better. And the feeling better in this now moment is what you just demonstrated for us of like just even allowing our awareness to come down out of the mind and let our body mind do the thinking for just a moment. You know, we can always go back up there. It is fun to ask the questions and pull at the threads and, you know, take the notes and learn the things and have the epiphanies. That's fun. It is fun to do that. But like always, like, is this coming from the shadow, like a stress, a fear, needing to find security by constantly seeking in the outer reality? Or are we in the physical sensations of like, I'm going on a ride in an amusement park because it's fun, because it lights me up, because it's fun to play with these things. It's fun to talk to this person. It's fun. Like that's possible. That's a frequency that's possible, but it is so different than the frequency of like can't eat, can't sleep, can't do anything but like be in doubt and suspicion and fear and like, you know, go down the rabbit hole compulsively. But
yeah,
like diving down the rabbit hole for fun, I gotta think we're not the only ones that get some pleasure and satisfaction in a solid, like really, you know, several hours worth of like a rabbit hole. Sometimes that can be really fun to do. And so that's like this energy of, you know, that questioning, that doubt that wants us to pull at the thread. And like sometimes that's fun. And I so appreciate like you helping me in this moment to like ground down into the nourishment of having the fun of that. And like
Yeah.
that's really what we're doing here is receiving nourishment, like the hummingbird, like seeking out the nectar where the nectar is. So I want to stop right there and like let you chime in even just on our little intro here before we get into unpacking like specific details and stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, I never really because I'm very look open head, undefined, like completely open, and or no, wait, maybe not. But anyway, yes, open head. I have an open head. This is true. I do.
Well, and
Um,
like I'm gonna put both of our like head ajna, like not the whole human design chart, but just so everybody can see like what hanging gates we both have, because yeah, both of us have the undefined head and ajna, but some different hanging gates in the
yeah,
mix. And maybe we can talk about why that's interesting a little bit later. But yeah, I'll put that on the screen here in the video edit so people can see. So yes, they see your open and your gates that are lit up.
yeah. And so, I mean, I am so familiar with that feeling of like the pressure of all these things because I'm, just taking it in the whole time. And that both of those feelings, actually, the feeling of being so excited about something and learning more about it and wanting to just see how deep that rabbit hole goes, find out everything that it's possible to find out and, to put into the giant puzzle that is my mind.
Yeah.
Um, Another piece in the giant puzzle that never ends. Um, and um, the pressure of, well, I mean, these particular shadows here. What doubt and it's doubt and I have to remember
Confusion.
doubt and confusion and how
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And then when I'm on a mission to like, dispel, eliminate, kill off forever the doubt and confusion, how very, very consuming that can be. And and yeah, just like not being able to settle, like just having all the energy in my head and even forgetting when it sometimes it feels like I can't remember what it's like to have a body. Like you said, can't sleep, can't eat, can't settle, can't feel that I need to go pee, you know? Like
Yeah. Can't feel that
all,
I'm hungry. Can't feel that I'm like, can't feel. Like just
yeah,
detached and only experiencing life as this and the recipe for anxiety and just dysregulation, like nervous system dysregulation, can't settle. My body is just not at peace in this moment. And that's what you brought me into with the grounding was like finding that place of like all is well already right now. The point of the questioning and the exploration and the discovery that we are going to do in this near future, none of that is to create well-being that's missing from this moment. That's not the point, like everything is already okay. The point of the thing is fun. And just cause can and cause, life is happening. And like, what are you doing with your time? This. How does it feel to be you in this right now moment? Pretty darn good. I'm so grateful. Yeah. So that's maybe a good point too. Again, I can put it on the screen here as far as like, so the sun at the time that we're recording this is moving through the gate 63, and the earth is always opposite the sun in astrology. So that means the earth right now is moving through the gate 64. Gate 63 and 64 are programming partners, which just means they're opposite each other on the mandala. So that means like the gate 63 is located in Pisces, gate 64 is located in Virgo, if that gives you some more like intuitive connotations to what this energy is all about. And so then, yeah, the gate 63 is the shadow of doubt, and the gate 64 is the shadow of confusion. And when you put those together, it's a recipe for fear and insecurity. Like all of the 64 shadows in Gene Keys. Um, and that actually is a fun thing that I was so excited to tell my friend Laura that I learned today that I had heard part of it before, but I heard like an expanded, like additional piece of it. So I want to like tell that because like, oh my gosh, it felt good. And that is like when Richard Rudd talks about the 64 gene keys and like the shadow, the gift, and the city frequencies of each of these different gene keys. I've heard him say before that like the 64 shadows are 64 different names for fear, and that the 64 cities are 64 names for love. And so, like, no matter what gene key we're talking about like transforming fear into love and like the different physical sensations associated with fear or love. I had never heard him, and the video or like the audio thing that I was listening to where he said this, I know for a fact I've listened to it so many times, and I just like didn't hear what he said, like this middle piece of like the gifts are 64 names for creativity. I had never heard that part before. And it was there. It was there the whole time. And I just never picked that piece up. I guess I didn't need it until today.
I never heard that before either. Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Isn't
Thank
that
you.
delicious and wild that it was there and I didn't hear it? I'm going to put my little sunblock thing up here.
Go for it. Because you got all that delicious sunlight in there with all those big, beautiful windows.
Right? It's like the blessing and the curse of I need a lot of light, and at a certain point, the spotlight is intense when it's right in your face. Um, so yeah, 64 names of creativity, the gifts, the pathway of transformation between fear and love is creativity. Like this just sank down into my consciousness with such delicious ripples. And it's so nice after the grounding to like revisit this and just savor how good that insight feels. That like really the human gift for all of us, and we all have it in different facets, the human gift is creativity. That is the gift. And the shadow is fear, and the where we're aiming to is the love. And it's just all so simple. And I'm delighted by the simplicity of that.
So delighted. That makes me happy inside that the path from fear to love is creativity.
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah. Stepping into your creative power, you know, choosing to get on the elevator and press the button to go somewhere different. And that's all, creativity. Like it's just a choice. It's just a series of choices, you know? So yeah, it just, I don't know, that felt so good. And so that felt relevant to plop in here as we set up this stage to be able to look at the Gate 63. And I think, you know, there is such a part of my energy that used to regularly feel that like mental overwhelm of being able to see very clearly how much I didn't know on a subject. Like I could just very easily see like I need to learn that, I need to learn that, I need to learn that, and it's so much that you just almost shut down. Um, and so I'm very familiar with that kind of like overwhelm leading to paralysis sort of thing. And I feel like that's happening somewhere in these gates up here that we're talking about. And what I have learned through like just the repetition of that happening to me, because I do love to learn and I do love to walk into unknown territory where there's a lot to learn, you know? Um, but this ability to almost like put on blinders and just take it one step at a time. Like there's like a kindness to the body that's baked into that. There's like a self-love that's baked into that, that like Like I'm almost refusing. It reminds me of your gift of resolve. Like I'm almost refusing to even acknowledge that there is like this, which is all like don't even look at it. Like it'll give you anxiety. I'm not even looking at it. It's giving me anxiety. Like just one word at a time, okay? One thing at a time because I only have these two eyes, I only have these two hands, I only have like getting to speak one word at a time, getting to thread one word together with another word. Like this is irrelevant. The elephant is irrelevant. And the bite that I am on right now has my undivided attention. And there is a softness that comes with being able to just eliminate for a moment 99.9% of the information at hand and share that, like, the gate 63 is the shadow of doubt. Okay? The shadow of doubt. And this feels like a great place to also plop in that, like, we all have all of them. So,
Mhm.
like I was saying at the very beginning of like, yeah, those don't apply to me. She's precious. 5 days ago, me. God, like, just, I feel like there was something shadowy, like almost like wanting to keep itself alive by keeping me out of this rabbit hole because it has been very transformative. So yeah, the
Mhm.
shadow of doubt, we all have it. We all have
Yes.
it. Doubt, we all experience it. It's the like freaking definition of relatable, of course. Of course, we all have doubt. Um, So yes, one bite at a time. We shall start right there. The shadow of doubt. What was your relationship to Gene Key 63 before this week? Like, had you done some deep dives? Had you spent time with it? Yay or nay?
Not, I wouldn't say that I've done any deep dives into it because, yeah, again, like it's not, it's not a gate I have demarcated in a human design chart, and it's not something that shows up on my hologenetic profile. So, no. But I have listened to it. I get into a groove where I'll listen to the pulse regularly, and I'm in one of those grooves again, where it's like, And I've listened to it a couple of times, so probably more than two. And yeah, I think I'm not going to be able to pull out things from what I listen to, but what stays with me is the self-doubt. Like this is something that definitely applies to me, the self-doubt and and how excruciating that is and the kind of like the pressure and the panic that creates that kind of like that's when all this energy is not fun at all and it just feels like something that's just using up all your nutrients um, and kind of geometrically expanding until yeah it's really needed what you just said that you come back to this word, this moment, this task, this question or whatever it is because it can feel like sometimes I remember thinking about this a long time ago feeling like there is like a field of iron filings caught in like a magnetic field that is emitted by your head and just kind of everything is just full of this gray speckle. This is like I've thought about that. This was a long time ago, but I know that's what it was about. Um, yeah, and just like basically it's just too many moving parts. It's like there's too many things trying to grab your attention and overwhelm. And then back to self-doubt of like, why can't I find some uh, clarity in any of this? Why can't I decide which thing or things to grab and to, move into or yeah, analysis paralysis. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was my relationship with it.
Yeah. That paralysis from self-doubt. Again, I would imagine that that's like the definition of relatable, you know? And maybe some people don't suffer from it as much as other people. Like maybe their shadow is more like the shadow of arrogance, where you always think you know. And
Yeah.
so to not be graced by doubt is not necessarily a good thing, you know? Balance. We need them all. Um, and that, yeah, like, I mean, that shadow of doubt, like, I feel like it'll swallow you whole. Like, it'll eat your whole life if you let it. If you don't, like, put a boundary on your attention that says, like, I am only one human being. There is only so much I can do. I am only right here, right now. And if I constantly look out, this is the part where like I have whatever I have that helps me to put this boundary. It comes from right here, which is if I constantly look out at all the things and can't ever decide, then I do nothing. And that is more offensive to me than picking the wrong thing to do right now, or like doing them in the wrong order, or doing them imperfectly, or doing them like incompletely. You know, like I was telling Lainey, our other friend, this morning about how, like, our shared experience after last conversation, where we both had thoughts of, like, I wish I would have said that. Like, what I said, like, I wish I would have gone into this because afterwards I was like, oh my gosh, I should have mentioned that thing. And it's like to do anything is to be incomplete, you know, and like to pick any one of the things that is all out of all the things, you're automatically saying no to a bunch of stuff. And that's the part where I feel like a lot of people get like it's just too crunchy to live with choosing one of them and having to deny all of the other ones. But like
Right.
truly, like if you can do that, you can process this one and then you can process this one and then you can process this one and you can be a factory of processing and that's fun and productive in many ways. But yeah, when we just get consumed by that shadow of doubt, like he put it, it's like we disempower ourselves at a chemical level. That, like, when we are in self doubt, when we are telling that story of, I don't know how, I can't get started, I don't know how to get started, or whatever that version of the story sounds like, our brain is creating chemicals that literally, like you said, like, I mean, it feels like it's eating up all my brain waves, all my nutrients, and it is. Literally, on a chemical level, we disempower ourselves with our own self-doubt. It takes all your energy, you get tired, and all you need is a nap. And I'm like, again, this is like the story of my life in times, at moments. Um, and so yeah, just the relatability of like having self-doubt. And this actually, he said this in a different one of the gene keys, but I feel like it goes here too. It's like it comes with the vehicle. Like you're not gonna get away from it necessarily. And like I want to go back to something you said of like when I feel like I need to like eradicate the doubt out of me, like I need to get rid of that part of myself that doubts, the one who doubts me. Like I need to chop her off and like send her packing. Um, that is such like a cultural like conditioning kind of thing, and like I know that like you and I both like we practice inclusivity when it comes to our inner parts and not like banishment of the part that's doing the thing that we disapprove of. um so yeah, I think there's maybe something to say there about like the softening um around the part of us that is doubtful and why we don't actually need to get rid of that part. Like why it's really not a problem, you know, to be solved. It's just, it's okay that there's a part that doubts.
Yeah. Yeah. It's as you said, like someone who like goes through life without doubt, that's probably not such a great thing. So it we probably are kinder people. And then on the note of kind, like Is it ever, I mean, this my belief is that yes, we have parts, etc., that, are bothersome, annoying, that, drive us crazy, etc. But is violence really the way? Like, I mean, because is it really the way? Do we really want to be do we really want to do violence to ourselves by wanting to like cut that part out and throw it away? So anyway, that's my little speech on that. But the doubt. Wait, where are we going with that? Back me up.
Like accepting that part, like seeing the value, seeing that we don't have to exile that part. We can let it sit at the table.
We
Like,
can
how
let
do
it.
we get there? How do we accept our own self-doubt instead of trying to get rid of it, you know? I feel like that's so counterintuitive from a human kind of lens.
Yeah. Yeah. I love to literally envision, imagine like my parts sitting at a table and self-doubt and like visualizing what does self-doubt look like and how would help self-doubt like sit at the table and to, pull up a chair for this part and kind of allow that part to simply be there, doubting everything. Is this food for me? Is it safe to sit here? Is it okay for me to speak? All of those self-doubty
Mm.
kinds of things is just to sort of see that part of yourself, allowing being allowed to like be a part of everything and reacting in whatever way you can visualize that part to react, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
that's literally what I like to do. Um, and because if because I can give myself a little bit of distance from it. I mean, that whole self-doubt and this, I mean, we live so much in our heads all the time. And when we're up in there, whether it's because we have a cool idea, but then self-doubt comes in and we have to go and, get a lot of external validation or do a lot of research to see like, is this actually, like basically checking that we're, we're having a good idea, like we're not
Hmm.
insane. Or whether it's just, I don't know how to do this, um, to, I've lost my train of thought now. Classic me move.
Dude, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, am I finding it again? Yes, we live so much in our heads, and yep, completely forgot what I was gonna say. Okay, I was gonna say something about living in the head, and yep, just lost it.
And that's
Completely forgot.
okay. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. That's okay. That's okay. It is such a perfect place to kind of build out the foundation of the conversation that we're having and like really put this together in a way that makes so much sense because the okay, so we've introduced the programming partners that we're talking about as far as the sun and the earth being in 63 and 64. But both of those are in the head center. And so that means they create two channels of energy to connect to the ajna center. And so that brings two more gates into the conversation. So, like, the 63 actually connects to the ajna with the gate 4. So that means, like, to get energy through that channel, you're transforming like a combo shadow. Okay. Like, you're rarely ever dealing with the shadow of doubt by itself. It's usually a combination of the shadow of doubt and the other end of that channel of energy, which is the shadow of intolerance, which I feel like is the perfect place to like come off of what you were saying of like to want to exile a part of ourselves is to do a violence onto ourselves. And why would we do that but for the shadow of intolerance? We cannot tolerate the part of us that is doubting. We cannot tolerate the whatever it is, the uncertainty that is inviting in the doubt, the insecurity that is inviting in the questioning and the what if and like it's that energy that gets it going that like we can't tolerate it. And now we're wanting to like chop off parts of ourselves, thinking that's the answer when it's like literally the opposite of that. Like the ability to be with the parts, to sit with and to pull up a chair and to have a look at what is their posture. You ask me that question every time and I still don't remember to like do that one for myself, which is one of the reasons I love you. Thank you for the repetition of that because yeah, like even as you like embody self-doubt, I feel like I connect to the energy of it inside of myself even more, which is required to like transmute that shadow into the gift. So yeah, I just wanted to bring in like the shadow of doubt and the shadow of intolerance. They are working together as like kind of one shadow. It's like
Yeah.
multi sides of that maybe. But
That's so beautifully done. Thank you, because it reminded me of what I
ta-da.
would say
Yay.
about that. Thank you. Um, yeah, by this visualization, I get a little bit of distance from the thing, which is so easy to identify with. That's why I was saying we're all up in our heads, and that we just feel like we're these like buzzing heads, and we just are in our heads, and like we don't have bodies, and until we're starving to death, and about to like, have a sugar collapse or something. But to do this visualization, it gives distance, which ironically allows me anyway, and I think a lot of other people to um, know that it's not all of you. That's like it's not your entire personality. It's like I'm not this seething mass of self-doubt. That I have other qualities and there's other things at play. But also to questions like that, like how does this part hold itself? What does it look like? How old is it? It opens a space to have tolerance, compassion, right? So
Allow it to be there.
allow
It's
it to be.
allowed to exist. That's tolerance. So yes, 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 yes. I love this. This is perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're demonstrating the gifts, which, all the gifts are just another name for creativity. This is a choice to get some of that distance from like that's why I love parts work. I feel like it makes it so much safer to explore yourself when that admission is like baked in from the get-go that like no part of what you find in there is all of what you are. Like everything that you find is only a part. It's not the whole thing. So any feeling, any thought, like it is not representative of who you are. It is only a piece. And so the story is always so much bigger than like any part that we're working with, like in any given now. Um, that feels very freeing. It feels very softening. It feels very like tolerant, like it's safe for these parts to be there because, it's just the passengers on the bus. Like we're fine. They can all exist together. Um, and so I feel like that process is demonstrating the gifts where every shadow contains a gift. The shadow of doubt contains the gift of inquiry, and the shadow of intolerance contains the gift of understanding. So we go from doubt and intolerance, being scared and wanting to do a violence on ourselves, to turning that into the fuel of inquiry and understanding, and these being names of creativity. Understanding is a form of creativity. Inquiry is a form of creativity. Is that not delicious? Like in the way like you did in the grounding, like get down in your body and like feel the nourishment in your cells. That right there of like, wow, I do love inquiry and understanding. Like I love how that feels to like get it, to like get something, to have it click, like that click feeling. Like I know you know what I'm talking about. It feels so good. And without doubt and without intolerance, you do not have that feeling. You have to
Yeah.
have the contrast to like give rise to the click. So mm,
Gifts are embedded inside the shadows. which is just like, when you first hear this. And then, well, with inquiry and inquiry
Understanding.
standing, yes, thank you. Um, with those, then it's kind of then it becomes interesting,
Like
potentially
a
interesting,
game. Yeah.
like a game, like a whole, an exercise in discovery,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Just because you like to explore, like you enjoy being surprised, like it's delightful. So,
Right.
yeah. And it brings in that same piece, though, of like inquiry. Like, we can truly, to have a productive inquiry, you can only ask one question at a time. Like you can really only like receive one answer at a time. You can only understand like kind of one thing at a time. Like there's a yeah, there's another need to like slow it down and be in this moment and only only what can fit inside this right now moment is all that's here with us right now. And the rest of it still exists, but like a letting it float away kind of thing, like not trying to hold on to it, which I feel like is part of that like buzzy mental headspace of like needing to figure it all out. But the more I get answered, the bigger the map gets, and the unknown edge just goes on forever. And again, it'll swallow your life if you let it, but it's so fun to play and dance with the process of inquiry, with sitting down with one of your parts that you've never had an experience with before. You've guided me through that many times inside of myself, and it's so powerful. It's so powerful.
So illuminating. Like, so yeah, so interesting, so interesting. And I'm glad you mentioned the slowing down part because that's what I was feeling in my body. It's like the slowing down of one question at a time. And then it brought me back to something that we talk about a lot, but maybe not yet at, like last time, but is to witness, um, to be with. Like that question, like that part, for example, is just to slow down and don't be in a rush and don't try and extract the answer or the answer that you want out of what you're sitting with, but to just allow it, tolerance again, to tolerate it. And like the parts, I know my parts appreciate just being witnessed however they are. And I think, most of us, I know a lot of people who what they would really like is just to be witnessed, you know, and as they are.
Yeah,
Terrifying also, but I think that's a deep soul yearning for a lot of people is to,
be
as I
seen.
am.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah. Yes. So like inquiry, and he goes into this as far as like he says that it's like the brain working in the right order, that like when we're in the shadow, we're relying more on the left brain, and like when we're in inquiry, not that we don't like abandon the left brain and like forget all about it, but that we are letting our brain work in the right order, which is to say the right brain, or like the yin feminine side of us, first gets to take in the full big picture. And then once we have a grasp on the beauty of the bigger picture, we then have the left brain to act as an instrument of further organizing and like basically creating valuable things for the future, like solutions for humanity, like are often born out of this process of like reaching for the truth. The city of the 63rd gate is the truth. And I love how he says basically logic has no relationship to truth or something like that, that like the left brain is like purely capable of logic, and that's not truth. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. And so, like, you almost have to let your mind, like, do its whole thing. And then once it's exhausted its whole thing, then we can get down to finding the truth, which does not happen in the mind. So it just is like yeah, like, it's so much more passive than I feel like when we're in the shadow is more when we're in like the must know, must figure it out. Like there's like it clenches my muscles to even feel that pressure. And inquiry is like more like observation, is what I hear you
Mhm.
saying. Like just kind of observing like what's real.
Yeah, and what might happen. And I don't know the answer to this question, or I've never met this part of myself before, or I've never tried this thing before. And I don't know the answer. Like, obviously, my nervous system wants to know the answer and wants to be safe and wants to have success be guaranteed. But inquiry is like, yeah, I don't know the answer. And I don't know what's going to happen. And, opening space for that, which is just, I mean, I know how scary, I mean, I've definitely lived a part of my life being completely terrified of not knowing the answer. And as I have allowed myself or built enough safety for myself to inquire, truly inquire, and to be curious, um, it's so amazing. Like you said, you can be completely surprised. I mean, it's wonderful to be completely surprised. How often do you love a movie because you can't predict the ending,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's what makes it good.
Yeah, that's what makes it good.
Yes. Yes. Um, oh, see, I lost my train of thought. Classic me. It happens. It happens sometimes. Um, and so the gift of understanding side of things, also, he talks about how like it requires patience. And like I think patience is basically the tool that I'm suggesting we use to like take the 99.9% of things that aren't right now and just put them over there in the future, like and just keep the one that you're going to play with right now. And like actually that's like patience in action is like I can let those remain untouched and I can be with the one that is for me right now and I can be at peace with the untouchedness of all of these other things. So, yeah, like it basically like you do your best thinking when you're not thinking, when you're not trying to think, when you're just kind of letting it unfold. That's when like understanding naturally arises and happens in perfect timing. Like the earlier, like the piece about like the gifts all being names for creativity. Like I swear I've listened to that video or that audio so many times and never heard that before. And I've actually had that. It's funny because it gives rise to a doubt of like, I should have heard that before. Like, why didn't I hear that before? Like a lack of like, I should have already known that. And which is comical under this like 63rd shadow of doubt. And like I've had that sensation multiple times this week where like, why didn't I know that before? Which is a
Mhm.
form of self-doubt. Like it's like that's one of the things that a self-doubting part might say is that you're late. You should have already known that. You're behind. Why are you so behind? How are you going to get caught up? Like, I mean, all kinds of self-doubt little fragments there. Um, and each time the answer um came through this like combo shadow because there's like an intolerance for the part of me that doesn't know, the
Mhm.
part that is intolerant of the part that doesn't know yet, or the part that only found out today and didn't know before. Um, and then allowing this part to be there. And like, what if, what if like actually me learning this today is some sort of divine timing mechanism? Like there's some kind of ripple effect that is meant to happen that like I don't understand, like I'm not meant to understand. I truly was meant to find out today. Like I had one the other day and I forget, oh, it was in a moment of feeling like I really saw the truth and I was, having a whole inner experience while I was watching this YouTuber's video. And I had this moment of comparison of like, she has understood this truth for so long, and I'm only just now starting to feel this truth in my body. And I felt behind. I felt like, why did she get to learn it 20 years ago? And like, why am I only just now learning it? And I was like, it's so easy to like go right down that rabbit hole. Um, and again, like coming back to like being able to tolerate the part of me that's only just now figuring this out. And that's okay. And it's okay that you didn't know 10 seconds ago, and that now you do. And like this timing is okay and you're not late. And like just reparenting that scared part inside that like didn't want to tolerate the part of me that didn't know it already. um, but it is interesting. I have noticed where we're recording this towards the end of the sun in the gate 63. I've noticed that probably a handful of times this week where I was like kind of beaten on myself just a little bit, like not too bad, for not knowing sooner. And
Right.
like all in divine timing. It's fine. Really, promise.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I'm very familiar with that as well, especially as someone I'm so as like a Gen X, I often have these moments of like, how come all these like much younger people, well, I mean, having access to the universe of information that is now available now, um, feeling self-doubt about like, only figuring things out when I'm like this age rather than when I was like 20, you know, that's a big one sometimes. That can just feel really, mm, yeah, so behind. Imagine
I
what it would have been if like I knew then what I know now, or if I was 30 when I figured this out, or yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, as you were saying that, my first thought was like, that is so common. Like, as I've been in this YouTube space and I've been like facilitating groups and working with individuals, like, I have heard so many people say, like, usually what they say is, I thought I figured this out already, which is
Hmm.
just another form of like, I didn't figure it out until now, or like, whatever, very much in that ballpark. So, like, that is so common, so
Yeah.
relatable that like we all feel like that at one point or another. Um, and the part at the end that you said about like, how might it have been if I had figured this out 20 years ago, which as you said that, I was like, that is the shadow of intolerance
Right?
talking, that would take your last 20 years and just say those were bad. And like
Right?
I could have just like done it so much better and it should have been better. It could have been better. And it's like, was it not already exactly what it needed to be? Like, wouldn't that be like a little bit more like, like so again, like that conditioning to judge ourselves, to like compare and doubt and be intolerant of any part of us that we would perceive through our conditioning to be a liability, like that part makes us not safe or makes us less safe. And it's so understandable, the gift of understanding. It's so understandable that, like, at a deep, subconscious, primal, physical level, like, we're wired for safety. That's why I say, like, the doubt and the intolerance, like, it comes with the vehicle. Like, that's part of being alive, is that that's in there. And it can have us like going in a roundabout and kind of stuck in one spot, or we can use it as fuel in the gas tank. That's possible, to let it do its thing. Let it lead us somewhere new.
And I think that divine timing, like opening up to the divine timing is so creative. Like it is so creative in order to like invite understanding, to promote understanding. Um, because again, you might not know the answer. Like what what could I have done, or why didn't I know this? Like, why did I only figure this out today? Um, you don't know the answer, and to, sort of just sit with divine timing. You can like open the inquiry. I mean, you may not discover why you only heard that each gift is the gifts are creativity. So it was 64 words for creativity. I know I didn't take that in until you told me. So,
It's
I mean,
time,
I
I guess.
know how it's spiraling off into like different kinds of excitement. But I don't know what it's for yet. Maybe I won't know till next week, next year. I don't know. Divine timing. Yeah.
Inviting it in promotes understanding, is what you said there. And I just want to echo that as far as like, yeah, what he was talking about with understanding kind of having to naturally arise like in its own time. Like it is truly isn't something that you can like sit there and point your brain at something and like I'm gonna pedal on this track until I understand it. Like you will never get there. That's not how it works. So like take your mind off of it and let the insight, let the process like happen organically. Um and so I want to like take us into the 64 now, which we haven't really talked about yet. And that will also bring the 47 into the conversation because that's that other channel between the head and the ajna. Um, and so this gate 64 is the shadow of confusion. And so, like on the mandala, the programming partners of 63 and 64, that those two shadows that like kind of tug at each other, the shadow of doubt and the shadow of confusion. And basically, what I took, like what he was kind of saying as far as the shadow of confusion is like uncertainty, like a lack of certainty and kind of like an unknown, undecided, not figured out, which, like definitely plays with the shadow of doubt. And that like just like the shadow of doubt, not knowing is infinite. So like the confusion is infinite. Like there, no matter how much you know, no matter how much you figure out, there's always like just more and more and more and more unknown. And so yeah, like these, it just sounds like it's really about our relationship to the unknown, these two shadows, like the shadow of doubt, the shadow of confusion. Does it feel like fuel? Does it feel like paralysis? Would be like our relationship, our ability to be in the same room as the unknown kind of thing.
Yeah. Imagination, confusion to
Mm.
imagine. Yeah. So I'm like learning some new things this week. So I've definitely, the 64 is connecting with my 47 hanging gate. So
Yes.
I'm trying, we have all the resources. We have the Google and we have all the things. Like, back in the day, I had a dictionary and a set of Encyclopedia Britannica. Like, it's a whole like multiverse of stuff that's at my fingertips now. And so, like, I can figure this out. And it's all very confusing. Like, trying something new is confusing. And um, maybe some confusion comes. I mean, I expect myself to be able to sort of take to it, like, so quickly, so easily. Let's just get this shit done. So maybe there's some confusion in me about like um, learning, learning something in this, because these are, this is like technical stuff. It's like I'm trying to make this with my laptop, and I'm generally allergic to my laptop for most things, but um, um, Yeah, and it's like these are unfamiliar areas for me, and it's very confusing and it's very frustrating. And there have been moments where I'm just like, I don't, part of me is just like power through it. And the other part is just like, just fucking walk away and just like leave it. You don't need this. And yeah, it's such an uncomfortable place to be, you know?
Mm.
And yeah, it's just uncomfortable. It's frustrating. It's uncomfortable. And like,
Yeah.
how is this sort of my idea to be so slowed down by the fact that this is confusing and now I have to go back and I have to figure these things out and feeling inadequate and yeah,
Uncomfortable. That right
comfortable.
there. Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, that was one of the little phrases that I wrote down was like overpowered by discomfort. This confusion, this like again, we're in the mental energy, we're in a pressure center. So that confusion turns into pressure, and then you act out of your confusion, and it just brings more confusion. It just makes it worse. When you succumb to the pressure, and what else I wrote down, the forces of pressure trying to rush the process. That's the
Process.
problem with not being able to sit with the discomfort is that, and this is so great for what we were just talking about, like if it was time for you to know, you would know. So the fact that you don't know mean it's time for you to not know. And like this inadequacy, this confusion, this unknown, like it's right on time. And like that is such a hard pill to swallow because it's so uncomfortable. So like our relationship to discomfort, our ability to come back and notice our breath, like you said, and like the chair that's holding us up and the well-being that already is, and like
Mhm.
nothing that we're trying to sort out from this doubt, confusion, intolerance, like none of that is to make well-being exist because it doesn't right now. Like that's not the point of what we're doing. We're already well. It's already okay. Like that's we're in our bodies. There is contentment, there is peace, there is well-being. And then come back to, yeah, like that same energy, the shadow of confusion, it contains the gift of imagination. Because you know where else it's like not known and like I don't have any idea how this is supposed to work and like whatever is in our imagination where there it's also limitless. It's also like, no matter how much you imagine, like you can always imagine more. Like there's a never-endedness, which is like more on the abundance
Mhm.
frequency than like the never-endedness of the unknown in a scary way, like on the fear frequency, on the scarcity frequency. So yeah, the gift of imagination, allowing magic to come into the process in its own time.
Yeah, yeah. Gift of imagination. And yeah, so I'm just like thinking back to like me trying to learn the new things, and we're trying to sort of pull out like what's the imagination with this. Um, and I think it's for me with this particular process, it's been about like moving. There's a fixed idea. Obviously, that's why it's so much pressure. I mean, it's pressurizing me. It has to go at the speed. It needs to be like this. It needs to be this successful and blah 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 blah. And um that's not very imaginative. I mean, considering that this isn't something I need to have figured out by tomorrow. There is space. So uh, this is maybe a bit of a boring imagination, but the imagination that like I can take it at my own pace. Again with the pace thing and the patience. That I can take this at my own pace. And I can take my confusion about something or about the thing in front of me and I can do something as imaginative as like ask my tech friend like how the hell this works and, you know, solve a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about the relationship between the confusion, the overwhelmed by discomfort, overwhelmed by discomfort, and allowing that to allowing imagination to come into that to kind of address the overwhelm.
Yeah.
Like, how could I do this differently? How could I do this differently? How could
Yeah.
I how could I have more patience with myself? And that's just a very mundane. That's like my very mundane example of like how this is playing for me right now.
But it's so perfect at how it demonstrates how these things tie together because what you demonstrated is like going back to the gift of inquiry, asking questions. Imagining a question is a creative choice to like open, like, how many questions are there? You know? And like we can only ask one at a time. So it's like the very definition of creativity to imagine a particular question, to spend your finite focus in this particular moment trying to imagine what posture would my self-doubting part have at the table? How would they sit in their chair? Would they sit in the chair? Would they like to be somewhere else in the room? Like we're using inquiry to ask the question and imagination to let the answer arise. Like
Yes. Mhm.
my nerd bells are just like chiming
Yeah.
so delicious. Like this is so good.
And as you're talking about that, I'm realizing that it's easier for me. And I've never thought about this before, but it's easier for me to imagine my doubt than it is for me to imagine my confusion. Like, and what that says to me is that confusion is probably I'm totally aware of it, but like its nature or its part that it plays in me is more shadowy because it's more difficult for me to see. I mean, it is confusion, so it would make sense that it would be more
It
difficult to
shrouds
see.
itself.
But
Yeah. It doesn't want you to see it.
I know,
Yeah.
but I never thought about that before. I'm gonna have to after this, like in my evening time, like imagine what my confusion looks like at my
Yeah.
table.
Yeah.
Okay, loud.
Imagination.
Does it have a face? Yeah.
Totally. Like
Mm.
the process of inquiry, the process of a question, like it blooms first in our imagination. So, like curiosity itself, and that's like one of the things that I was seeing is like when you get into the gift levels of this energy, it's like the doubt and the confusion, the unknown is the juiciest place you can be because that's where the fuel, that's where the gifts of inquiry and imagination and creating something that has literally never existed before. Like you get into the place of uncertainty and unknown where like what I was telling somebody the other day of like yeah, when things aren't figured out, like that can feel really scary and overwhelming and like insecure, like you just don't know what's going to happen. But that has like an unconscious imagining something bad in it, versus like if we take the same open-endedness and infuse it with an energy of like anything can happen, that means your future doesn't have to be like your past. And like it's the same thing at a completely different frequency. And all of a sudden we're excited about the opportunity to imagine a different future for ourselves. It can be however you want to picture it. So like that can be a good thing. So it's like the same energy, but like transformed into the creative choice of how are we going to look at it.
Yes. I love that you said that because it's like another what I'm thinking about as you started to speak was the exercise or like the need to create safety to go into those places of imagination and inquiry. And I'm just thinking about like school where there's an answer and like wrong is bad and good, there's one answer to the question. Or like if, in particularly strict, I don't know, families or environments where there's a very particular way that you need to present yourself, usually with lots of clarity and blah, blah, blah. And so I know that I learned that uncertainty, or sometimes even that asking questions wasn't safe. But those are external things. Like somehow maybe I just kind of like didn't understand for a very long time that it was okay. I mean, I was definitely in my imagination, like an imagination was a safe place for me, but perhaps maybe more inquiry, like to ask questions of myself. There isn't, other than my own imposed or like absorbed critical voice, or, there isn't, it's that it's safe in there. But I think it might be, I'm just imagining that imagination and inquiry, even inside, might feel a little bit, a little bit scary for sometimes for people.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Like meeting, I am one that carries social anxiety in this body, and it's gotten a lot smaller over the years, but it's still there. And meeting a new part of myself, I feel like I get the same kind of social anxiety as far as like, I'm not going to know what to say to them. I'm not gonna understand them. They're not gonna understand me. Like we're automatically gonna be this divided thing. And so, like, I regularly have sessions where Laura holds space for me to like explore my inner world. And like did we say this on the recording or did I say this before the recording? Of like multiple times you have held open the space for me to like pull up a chair to the table for the part that like I've never had an experience with and start asking me the questions of like, how old is this part and what are they wearing and what's their posture like and what does their voice sound like and if they could make a sound, if they could have a gesture, like you do the inquiry like for me and let my imagination like fill that in and it is so powerful and I've done it so many times and had such powerful transformative experiences from interfacing with parts like that. And very rarely still do I ever do that, like just in my own inner world, all by myself, to just go in there and go get one of my exiled parts and meet him at the table. Like, I don't often practice that solo for the reason of what you just said, of like, just because it's imagination doesn't mean it's not scary. Like I think we were saying last time, like the body can't really tell the difference between the imagination version and the real version, which is a beautiful thing in some ways, and also like can be very scary depending on what kind of dream or nightmare your mind is showing you at any given moment.
Yes. How you brought like my inquiry and your imagination together. Like that just is so, that's so, I don't know, that's
Right?
fancy. It's
That's
wonderful.
fancy.
I never thought of it like that. And it's also like such a pleasure. I mean, it's such a pleasure to hold space for those different parts.
To just
Because
be
there's,
curious and be allow ourselves to be surprised. Because like you ask me those questions, and I am often surprised by my own answers, which is why I continue to keep going back for more of these sessions because inquiry is so powerful and maybe even most powerful when done like facilitated by like a second point of focus and awareness because we do get so shrouded in like you said like I can't even really see my confusion where it is because it's so like normal, and then you don't even think to question around it. Like that was one of the things that came up as I was thinking about like doubt and why we wouldn't want to just cut it off and just leave it behind. I'm like, how would you ever doubt your way out of your doubt? If you just don't have doubt, like you wouldn't be able to get out of. So yeah, I think there's some really beneficial applications of these shadows and reasons why like it's okay. Like it's okay to be confused. It's okay to be in doubt. It's even okay to be in self-doubt and to allow space for like, what is this trying to show me right now? Like there's some very general inquiries that I feel like can make those little pinpricks in the lens of fear and like let some of the light start to come through as far as like, why is this right on time? And maybe it is, maybe it's not, but that's a question for inquiry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inquiry. Love it. Love it. And I'm again like my confusion that isn't that I think it's like well maybe just now recently with these transits and stuff, but maybe it's just kind of like right behind my eyes, which is why it's harder to see. So it's like right in my face. And but even as I kind of, in the background while we're talking about this, so start to visualize what that would be like, I can see how that confusion could easily just become a space of imagination, you know, like, yeah, kind of hard to talk about, but those are my thoughts about that.
Thank you, because as you said that, I was like, confusion is not knowing and being afraid of that. And imagination is not knowing and being inspired by that. Like they're both this place of like, I don't know. Like you have to be in the not knowing place to, like you said, like to be an inquiry, you have to go into the place where you don't know the answer. And it is one of my biggest pet peeves when people ask a question, but like they're actually trying to elicit, like it's like a mind control tactic to get you to say what they want you to say. And so like it's not that's not a question. That's a manipulation. So yeah, like a real question where like you genuinely don't know the answer. You have no idea what's gonna come out when I pull at that thread. And like that's a real question. Like we're in a discovery kind of phase. Um, not knowing and how, yeah, humans aren't necessarily wired for spending time in the unknown. Like our amygdala perceives that as a threat. It's dangerous to not know, to not be able to predict. So, like, it would make sense that it would make us so uncomfortable that we wouldn't want to go there. But in dropping into our body and realizing like the well-being of the now moment and then giving ourselves access to imagination, that's an easy one, I feel like, to see where the gifts are names of creativity,
Hmm.
like imagination and creativity. Like that's pretty easy to see that connection.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. Well, and so this one, okay, so I'm moving us now into like the other half of that channel of like the 64 is in the head. The bottom half of that channel connecting it to the ajna is the gate 47, which is the shadow of oppression. And Laura and I both have our Virgo South node in the gate of 47. So we did not know that until just the last couple of days. Um, and we both had a really deep inner experience of like going down the 47 rabbit hole and looking at this shadow of oppression and that having the gift of transmutation inside of it. And this is one of those that like when I heard it first, he was like, it's oppression, transmutation and transfiguration. And those are just three words that like aren't exactly in my daily vocabulary. And so it did the thing where I was like overwhelmed and there's too much unknown. And it was like a little bit paralyzing at first. Um, and so yeah, I feel like gene keys can often be like that, just as like a timing mechanism almost. Like if it overwhelms me to the point where I can't even listen to it right now, like clearly it's not time. And this was enough to be able to basically have like a live real-time demonstration of the thing that I had just been listening to about doubt and how like it'll shut down your whole system. I'm like, look, it's happening right now. the the scientist in me was delighted to collect that data. And so I powered through and was like, okay, forget about transmutation, forget about transfiguration. What is the shadow of oppression? Which I feel like is definitely the easiest place to start with most of these, just like culturally, the world is much more in shadow a lot of times than in the lighter, loving frequencies of the gift in the city. Um, but the idea of oppression and that like the words that come to mind when I think about this and when I like feel for this energy inside of myself is like slave energy. Like you don't have a choice. Like you are oppressed, you are powerless, you are stuck. Like this is the vibe of the shadow of oppression that I get. And so like this channel, like this, it's rarely ever we're working with just one shadow at a time. We're engaging in that channel's energy. So the shadow of oppression in the ajna goes with the shadow of confusion in the head, which I like almost instantly that gives me this little pocket of light of like anytime we feel oppressed, we are confused,
Yeah.
like we're creators, we're an extension of God. Like that's the real truth. So to ever feel powerless and to ever feel oppressed by some external force, it is evidence of our confusion kind of thing.
Yes.
So like
Yes.
how these two shadows like play together, you have to have both of them to even have one of them. So I don't, that felt good to highlight. So yeah, did you I know you said you had like a whole rabbit hole down the 47 as well. What were your impressions or what kind of took you down the rabbit hole?
Ah, yeah, well, I mean, we were talking about it, and then I have the 47 twice, so it's in my south node, my I think my conscious south node. It's also maybe in my unconscious Pluto.
Yes.
So, um, and I am very familiar with feeling oppressed. Very, very familiar with that. For various reasons. Black sheep of the family. And yeah, it's awful because not free without choice. Like, I can't because this confinement like completely disallows this whole array of choices for me. And yeah, very, very yucca, not nice, horrible, very, very horrible. Um, and what's the I've got confusion and oppression. Right. And then I don't know, did I go and read it or was it recently? I don't know. Maybe it was anyway. I feel like very recently I listened to the Gene Key 47 Pulse, or maybe I was reading about it. But or maybe it was something else that I listened to entirely. Maybe it was one of the videos you sent me. Um, but the confusion is like, yeah, there might be limitations externally, but the real limitations are internal, like the internal oppressor,
Yeah.
like the one who basically on some level complies, who buys into the belief that like I bought into the belief that I'm the black sheep and the disruptor or um any number of other things, lazy, underachiever. Um, that's the real that's the real heavy oppression. It's like
Yeah.
those things may actually be true on the outside. And my buy-in with that, that's what really, that's the weight. That's the weight. That's what really cuts off choices.
Yes.
And that's a whole big work to undo and not to be taken lightly and not to be rushed.
Right. Yes, we're in the land of requiring patience.
Yeah, don't expect transmutation by next month. But Yeah, which is, and that in itself, like noticing my own oppressor, um, so, so liberating. Like, it just like cracks the door open to like, oh, okay, you know, actually in charge of this. Like,
Yes.
when I can ask questions about, why I believe this. I can imagine something else. I can, yeah,
Like we're always free inside of our imagination.
in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's an example of like transmutation, of like, you are looking at it through the lens of like, I am stuck, I have no options. And then you shift to a way more liberated place of I may not have options in this now moment, but I am always free in my imagination to picture something that would make me feel different right now. And in that little shift of where your focus was pointed over here and now your focus is pointed over here, you've mutated the world inside of yourself because our body is always listening to our mind. Our thoughts are dripping chemicals into our body all the time. And so when we are telling the story of I am stuck, I have no options, we're doing the thing where we are chemically disempowering ourselves, shutting down our system, stripping away all of its energy. And when we will mutate the story that we are telling to I may not be free now, but in the physical, but I'm free in my imagination. I can picture something different. The future is open-ended. Like when we will give ourselves access to that vantage point, now we're dripping different chemicals into our body and we're literally opening up new options that are coming online that like weren't possible before when we were only in the self-doubt drip of chemicals into our body. Um, and it reminds me, Laura, of something we were talking about the other day with the drama triangle. And like, because I was telling her that I have a hard time not seeing this person as the bad guy. Okay. Like, here's the villain. He's right here. I can point to him. I can tell you his name. He's the villain. But the whole idea of like the drama triangle with like villain, victim, and savior is like one set of words for it. What was the other one? It was like perpetrator.
Oh yeah, perpetrator, rescuer, victim. That's
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So like anytime the idea of this is like anytime you're finding that like either you're identifying one of those things out in the world around you, like you are also on the triangle. Like you're one of them. Like if there's a bad guy, then that makes you the victim. And so like there's this and you need a savior. So there's this relationship and the idea of like what will happen when you will like turn the whole entire thing inside of yourself. And Laura was teaching me this yesterday that like the drama triangle becomes the like triangle of empowerment. Yes. And what
Yeah.
were those like what do they all become in that
Right.
transition?
The the perpetrator becomes the challenger. The rescuer becomes the coach, and the victim becomes the creator, right?
We're back at creativity. I love it. It's all weaving together. So yeah, like finding where am I being my own bad guy? Where am I oppressing myself? Where am I disempowering myself? Because like you said about your family, like, yeah, they said those things to me, but the real damage wasn't that they said that, it was that I believed it. That was what actually hurt me, not them saying the things in the first place. And so, like, that can be challenging. I feel like that can be like a spiky pill to try to swallow, like, especially if you haven't practiced wrapping your mind around concepts like that before. Um, because that's the bad guy. You like
Yeah.
can't let go of that. narrative. Like it's serving a purpose, it's holding up a foundational piece of something. And so they need to stay the bad guy. I can't even hear what you're telling me right now. And like that's right on time. I'm totally cool with it. Um, at a certain point, though, it's really empowering for the bad guy to be inside of you because you can do the process of inquiry and observing, you know, because like when you think about picturing the self-doubt sitting at the table and like what is their posture and how loud is their voice and are they even using their voice and what are they doing? And then you try to picture your oppressor at the table in the room. What are they doing? How tall
Yeah.
are they? How loud is their voice? Are they using their voice? I'll guarantee they are. Like that's their whole point. Um, like it's a whole different energy. And then when I look at my oppressor, I see how scared she is, like the one who's telling me that I need to be quiet, that I can't create that. Who do you think you are to take up that space? Like she's trying to keep me safe. She's like trying to protect all of us by going on the offensive and shrinking me down to something that she believes will be a safe size. So, like, the inquiry process and like finding that, like, actually the villain is like this, it's again, we're at the fear. Like there's an insecurity at play that if we can bring it inside of ourselves and like really own that we are the oppressor, we also then have access to like set ourselves free. So like there's empowerment there to bring it inside of yourself and like take full responsibility for all of that.
Yes. Yes. And I also just want to say, like, back to like my environment, black sheep, blah, blah, blah. Like, I did not create that complete, just to acknowledge, I did not create that completely by myself. Like those, that really was an environment, which I just, yeah. So just to acknowledge that, people have these things going on, it's real. So just in case, like, I'm not saying my words very well. I want to say that yes, things happen and they are painful and real oppression exists. And this is very, 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 very true. Like it's no one's fault. It is not the person's fault. Um, and then I also wanted to say that um, about the inner oppressor, my inner oppressor. Like my one, yeah, no, that's such a good question to ask. Like, who are they? Like, who are they? What do they look like? How are they holding themselves? And like, as you ask that, I realize that mine is in so much pain and really just like with every ounce of strength, like gripping onto control, the pain of like not being certain that she can control everything, which goes back right into these keys,
Hmm.
which are all about like how incredibly dangerous we perceive it to be confused or in doubt or yeah, and the intolerance that it engenders. So
Hmm.
my inner oppressor is very intolerant,
Hmm. Hmm.
out of control. But yeah, she's in pain.
Yeah. 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 Pain and fear. I mean, our shadow is so precious and like has the best of intentions for keeping us safe and is going about it in a way that they know how. And like this inner evolution process of like, thank you for trying to keep me safe. And is there an even gentler way? Going back into the gift of inquiry of like, perhaps like we can keep me safe and smooth out the roughness of how we need to go about that. Like maybe there's a even gentler path. Um, and thank you for what you said about like we are the creator of our reality and like there are these collective experiences where you are not the only person in that scenario, like in our family of origins and like our upbringing and the dynamics between people that play out. And like as I listened to his audio for the Gene Key 47, as he talked about the shadow of oppression, he went into that a little bit as far as like karma is not individual, it's not personal, it's collective. And
Mhm.
so, like, the karma that your vehicle is carrying, number one, it's not your fault. Number two, it's necessary for like creating the incarnative drama, is what he called it. Like basically your life story is like born out of like the karma and the collective stirring between you and other people. And he closes that up when this feels like kind of a transmutation of this idea itself is like oppression, the amount of oppression that is on your life is equivalent to your inner light because the oppression is actually trying to like wake up the inner light. So, like, the brighter your beingness is, the more you will attract oppression because of the shadow of confusion where we have given our power to the outside world. And every time we're oppressed, like the answer is always like in us setting ourselves free. So, like, we find our way deeper and deeper and deeper into our own creative power, thanks to other people playing pretend like they have power over us. Thank you for
Right.
that. Thank you for demonstrating how confused everyone in this scenario is. Right? I'm confused because I think you have the power. You're confused because you think you have the power over me. We're all just confused. No, we are all holding the power for ourselves. Like that is what is true in the capital T sense of the word. And so I really liked that because, again, I think it can be very common that the people in these spiritual spaces like you came through a really tough path and that was full of like the contrast, the grittiness of like why does it have to be so hard to be a human? And as at least as far as what Richard Rudd is presenting like in this contemplation, it's like what if it's that is the grit that's meant to like wake you up to who you really are and what's real. And fortunately, we don't have to decide about is that true or is it not? I loved what he said in the Gene Key 63 of like, truth is not fixed. As soon as we've got a fixed idea of what is true, we have dogma and we have opinion, and now we're divided again.
Yep.
So, like, anytime we try to like pin it down, like we're back in the shadow of like we need to open it back up so that it's more open-ended and the process of inquiry can just continue to kind of run in the background and truth can get deeper and bigger and more multifaceted and contextual and all the richness can come into it in its perfect time.
Yeah. And that what is true in a moment, like what is true in a moment can change in the next moment. That it isn't a constant, it's not a fixed thing. Like how many things were true for me today? Confusion was true for me, self-doubt was true for me, fun has been true for me. Um, yeah, feeling overwhelmed, but then also remembering how to like, do practices that help me to feel more in myself. Truth is, yeah, it's not fixed. It changes all the time. And like we meet together in this like space where we share our truths. And I mean, maybe we create um we create a little bubble of like what the truth that we create between us. But I mean, your truth and my truth are not like going to be exactly the same.
And that they evolve. Like my truth evolves as I listen to your truth. Not that
Right.
I'm absorbing your truth, but that I am becoming clearer on my truth as I listen to you describing your sense of truth. So it's an exercise. It's like back at the beginning of like, why are we actually doing this? It's not to
Right.
pin something down and like have the end all be all answer and like, okay, got that done. Like, no, it's like, riding a bike for pleasure. Like, you're not really actually trying to go anywhere. You're mostly just like enjoying the process of like, this feels nice in my body to do this pedaling and yeah, to take this ride.
It's just occurred to me that it's so interesting that truth is the city and it's sits. I love how these words work together. Oppression, are we talking oppression? No, where's truth? Am I getting them confused? It's quite possible.
So oppression goes with the 64, which is
Right.
confusion, imagination, illumination.
That's
And
right.
yeah, but like they're both head ajna channels. So I mean, I definitely noticed that like there's a similarity and an overlap just because we're talking about moving energy between the head center and the ajna center. And so yeah, all three of them are three channels between are doing something slightly different. Like that's where we get into circuits, which is something I haven't really spent a lot of time trying to understand. But like the what was it? The 63 4. Oh, that's on a different full page of notes that I have from this morning's fun. Um, yeah, the 6447 is a sensing circuit, and the 63 4 is a collective understanding circuit. So, like, I spent a little bit of time trying to understand, which even as we've learned, like, trying to understand is an oxymoron. So I absorbed some information on this topic, and I am now allowing perfect timing to give me some understanding on this front, which I do not possess yet, but I know it will be coming in its own time. So, yeah. So I mean, I think they do all do. That's why I think it's so interesting to have these four shadows together for this conversation, and like these four gifts together for this conversation, because I think even though we're talking about two different channels there is such a we're in that neighborhood, like it's all kind of working together to receive this infinite flow of energy into our being from the thread that connects us to the all. I don't know how you would even describe like how where does all the stuff come from that flows into our head for this pressure to get going? But then the ajna center of like, okay, so then how do you make sense of that? How do you make sense of like the mental chaos that's going on for you personally? Like everybody's mental chaos is so unique and at the same time, like probably pretty similar. Um, so I think just to say, I think all the shadows and the gifts in these channels like kind of blur together. I don't think we can mismatch them.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, it's hard to keep track of all the different things. But it's so interesting. Truth and the way that human beings sort of like wield truth it can be very oppressive. So that's why I'm drawing these two things together, even though they're not actually like part of the trigram. But and that very hackneyed phrase of the truth will set you free, which I mean, we've just heard it so many times, we don't even really think about what that actually means. But if if truth is something that is changing moment by moment and from person to person, then how freeing is that? That there is no one right answer, right?
Yeah,
That
me too. Thank you. Thank you. Which is exactly, yeah, that's exactly what he's pointing to, and I think makes total sense of, the gate 63 being in Pisces, which is the energy in the zodiac that's related to like the infinite, the
Yeah.
the all, the eternal expanding universe. So like truth is like the eternal expanding universe. Like there is no black and white. We can write it on a page and like keep it forever. Like there it is. That's the truth. Like, no, that's dogma. We're back in the shadow. We need to doubt our truth. And like when we're doubting our truth, the process of inquiry gets to stay open. And that's like where the creative magic happens. Yeah.
I love how you just put it all together so nicely.
Sure. Sure. Cause can and cause want to. That's where like, dude, this has been such a profound week because going back to maybe we give 1 minute here to hanging gates because I feel like, I have the four and the, what was it?
40.
47, the ajna sides of these two crown gates getting activated, head gates. And so, like, I always have these hanging gates, this energetic magnet that is like on the ajna side, like liking to organize and understand, like, the fourth gift is understanding, the 47th gift is transmutation. Like, every shadow contains a gift that he's like, that's a prime example of transmutation. Like, yes, it's the shadow, but flipping it around to say, if I can see shadow, then the gift is here somewhere. And like all of a sudden you're into a whole different process. And that requires understanding of like the gift is in the shadow. Take the poo off the diamond, and then you have the diamond. Um, and so yeah, to see like the 63, 64 get lit up and that completes these two channels for me. Like, I feel like this was an exercise in getting to understand my own mind, like, so much more fully. Um, where specifically it was about how, like, I think it was the gate 47 that channel, the 6447, confusion and oppression, imagination and transmutation. Like that is about looking at past experiences and making meaning out of them. Like finding the reason, basically, like why was that perfect? Like making sense of that. And I like I've been told and I can see how like I'm pretty good at doing that, like almost in real time, to
So
where
doing that.
I was like, what do you mean past events? Because like I can do it on current events. And so here I am back in confusion. Like, great, I'm gonna get some more little nuggets out of here. Um, and that's when like that confusion, that doubt, that inquiry opened up, and like my subconscious like pulls in this whole other thing, this another thread that's like I was thinking about. It was Alyssa Nobriga's podcast that I was watching, and she was talking about how, like, reality is happening in the now moment, and we are observing reality. And as we observe it, our mind will label reality, will like categorize and classify and judge and measure and, do the thing. Everything that's going on in your mind is subject to that like millisecond of delay between like literally by the time you're observing something, it is already in the past because light has to travel. So like that thing happened and then you observed it and then you witnessed your own observation. And by this time, that thing is like way in the past. So like your mind is never in the now. Your mind is only ever in the past. And so I was like, oh, that's why. And so I had this whole nother like epiphany of understanding myself of like, oh, like I really am understanding past events because truly by the time you are observing anything, you're already
Yeah.
looking at the past. You actually cannot observe the right now reality. Like it just was like a whole thing blossomed inside my mind. It felt really good.
I
What did you say?
think I need to go listen to that because I'd never heard that it said quite like that, but it makes complete sense to me. Like, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was in that same kind of line of thought of like doubting the mind and not necessarily letting the mind be the decider or the guide or, the place where your power lives. Like that's really not what it's for. And I forget which one I was listening to where he said this, but Richard Rudd said, like, the mind can't judge, it can only measure. So, like,
Yes, I remember that line very distinctly. I,
I loved
mm,
it. I loved it because it's like it instantly invites in the process of inquiry of like, well, if the mind can't judge, then what does judge? Where is that? What, wait, what? Like it confusion. I don't know. Like, what does he mean by that? And like, it's funny when I look at it from that perspective. Like, Richard Rudd is such a good example of like, he confuses me, and that's why I love him. Like, he stirs up the unknown. He makes me look at things and see for myself that like wow like I really don't understand like what is even happening here and kind of like turns things upside down and like how fun that is, how fun it
so
can be, like there are definitely days where I'm not in the mood for that, and that's
yeah,
fine too.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's so much fun though. Like, yeah, just like to interrupt the little tracks that are like ideas or thoughts or, opinions or whatever are fixed into, to just knock them off for a little bit, which yes,
yeah,
it can be extremely unsettling, but also again, like opens up so much.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes, he like takes me into my imagination. I feel like I have to get in my imagination to like try to follow what is he even talking about. And like that Alyssa No Brigid conversation was very similar. Like took me up out of what I had previously thought was the truth of what was happening, that I'm observing the right now moment, but like that can never be real because of the way light has to travel in the physical. So yeah, it just was so
Oh,
deliciously confusing.
I I love that feeling. I love
Yeah,
that feeling.
yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to all be bad. Uh, well, do we have, I think, my goodness, that went by so fast. And that was like 2 hours. And I just can hardly believe that that was that easy and effortless and fun and expansive and getting to reflect and be together with you and all of our other friends.
Yes. And all our other friends. Yes. I
Yes.
love
Yeah. What would you say like is your like what comes to mind as like a takeaway, like your favorite little nugget from this contemplation?
so many good nuggets. I don't know. I think what's really sticking with me is like the the fluid nature of truth. I don't know. That just really is staying with me right now. That, yeah. And how like freeing and compassionate that is.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I think for me, the gate four and the shadow of intolerance is and like not doing a violence on yourself, like t being able to tolerate the part of us that is holding the doubt, or be able to tolerate the part of us that is confused and does not like it. The part of us that wants to rush or that wants to cling to control. Like all of these parts that are so easy to disinherit and try to exile. And um, yeah, and how simple really it is to let it have a chair at the table and just do and observe and let it be in the room, And like that is simple. And I think we all get sucked into the shadow of intolerance and which is fueled by that like shadow of self-doubt and like it's just so relatable, which is why I love having these conversations in public. Because I think there's common ground there where we can all take the process a little less seriously and like let the magic of the gifts, like the creativity of the gifts, the potential and possibility of imagination and inquiry and the vast, limitless questions that there even are to delight ourselves with. Like it's so abundant and infinite. Um, when we learn how to ride the wave and not be pummeled underneath the weight of it, which I do think like having these kinds of conversations and bringing it out into the light where we see it's normal to feel these ways sometimes helps us get out from under the wave and up onto the surfboard and like find the fun of getting to be in this process.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that's I'm thinking is I'm thinking about how um, it's symbolized by the grip that I mean, I know I feel this a lot of the time and have felt pretty much all the time in the past is like this sort of this clenching grip onto, and then these different things, they just kind of allow us, well, allows me to sort of unclench my hand and just let go, let go, allow things to be what they are, and also to shift and to change, to shift and to change, as I myself shift and change, as we all shift and change.
The endless river of truth, the fluid concept of flowing with the ever evolving concept of truth. Yeah,
Mm.
the freeing ease of that. Not needing to know. You don't need to know. There's no such thing. That's confusion to think that we should know. That's okay. Well, a lot of people are confused in that similar way. That's okay.
Most of us are confused most of the time in that case. Yeah. Ah,
Right? Oh, that's precious. That's so precious. And yeah, I feel like that's a really good spot to kind of tie a bow on this and call it good. Yeah. Thank you so much for those of you who have hung out with us. I would love to hear your little nuggets down in the comments. Those are so fun to get to see. Like Laura and I were talking before we started about how complete it is to just get to be together and talk about fun things and reflect on our own journey inside of our own inner worlds. And then to think that someone else could have fun by watching us have fun is just one of those quantum ideas that's like just delightful in how easy that is, like how sustainable. Yeah, just let the fun lead the way.